Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us today on another of our Spark Lunchtime webinars. We have two very exciting businesses to showcase today, and I'll introduce you to them in a minute or so. But just before I do those introductions, I just wanted to remind you about the Spark site a little bit. For investors, we charge zero fees. This is very unlike the EIIS funds and stockbrokers business models that you might have previously invested with, who obviously charge a fee for investments through their processes, but we don't. You as an investor pay nothing on the Spark site, and we will always keep it that way. Many of the businesses that we promote, and I include the two that we're showcasing today, are EIIS businesses. This means that you as a private investor and an Irish taxpayer can receive a 40% tax rebate on your investment. So an investment of €1,000 will only cost you €600 because of that 40% that the government will give back to you. This is a massive incentive for you, and it means that you get a 40% reduction in the pre-money valuation of the businesses. And it substantially de-risks that investment for you. So hopefully you avail of that, and we're very happy to have those businesses on our platform. So today we've got two presentations, each of 15 minutes, and there's a question and answer session to follow on as well. So please use that Q&A section at the bottom of the screen there, and don't use the chat. It means that we can all kind of look at the details and look at the questions easily at that point. So who do we have today? We have ClarityCX1 and RedZinc. Both are live on the site at present. Clarity has just raised over €1 million on the site and through other investments as well, and is now at 82%. And RedZinc is at 160% and at 154. But first up, we have Clarity. So perhaps I can get Chris to switch your camera on. Thanks very much, Chris. So Chris is the CEO of ClarityCX1. ClarityCX1 is a product, is a SaaS solution for account management teams in the pharma and life sciences companies. It has just become a Salesforce ISV partner and recently received final security data approval to go live on the Salesforce app store and on the solutions list. The product is due to trial at three major beta sites projects, one of which is Takeda, another Allergen, and the other one Novartis. So hopefully they'll be starting very soon. Two specialist VC and angel funds have already invested into the business up to the tune of 900,000. And Spark investors can invest on the exact same same terms. In fact, of course, with the EIIS, get a 40% reduction on those terms even. The addressable market for customers engagement is worth about 11 billion a year, and Clarity is projecting monthly recurring revenues of 75,000 per month by the end of the year. So, Chris, I'll hand it over to you, and please open your presentation and away you go. So again, just for clarity, guys, can you please use the Q&A session down below to put in your questions, and Fergal and I will ask those in a few minutes. So over to you, Chris.
Thanks so much, Chris. I appreciate it. And I also appreciate the attendance of the potential investors on the Spark crowdfunding site today and for this presentation. So let's begin with the problem that precipitated us creating ClarityCX1 and this Salesforce ISV solution. And as I go through this presentation, I'm going to do so in the context of the life sciences and pharmaceutical space, as Chris mentioned. However, the long-term view of ClarityCX1 is that what we're building here is applicable in multiple vertical markets. So I'll be glad to talk about that more as the session goes on. So in the pharma market specifically, you may be aware that the business model has been changing for quite some time. The old model of employing as many field reps as possible to call on physicians who used to make purchasing and prescribing decisions, that has now all changed, and that model has very much broken down. What's replaced it is more of a traditional business-to-business account management process that needs to be followed in order to engage with both government payers, hospitals, and other types of healthcare entities. And the characteristics of this sale has also changed. Instead of just calling on a physician for a few minutes each time with a rapid-fire product type of pitch, now this business-to-business account management effort in the pharma space involves longer sales cycles, more complexity, additional levels of decision makers and influencers, and even team-based selling. So it really is starting to look like the type of B2B strategic account management effort that other industries have gone through. The problem, though, is that the systems from a CRM and Salesforce effectiveness standpoint within the pharma space have not kept pace with this change. The reason why we know this is that the background story behind CX1 involves both my history in working in Salesforce, Salesforce effectiveness environments and CRM app type of environments, along with Clarity Engagement Solutions, which is a 13-year-old Dublin-based company that has been engaged with large global life sciences and pharmaceutical companies in the trenches in every region of the world all these years to help them make the shift and transition away from tactical selling to strategic account management. That company does that with both consulting services as well as now a lot of e-learning, virtual space learning journeys that help these teams make the shift. The one component that had not been offered up to now was a software solution to automate these new ways of working. So we decided, after listening to the feedback over the last several years, especially from these global pharma companies, about where they had large voids in their CRM systems and SFE systems, we decided to create ClarityCX1, which is a Salesforce Lightning native application that, as Chris says, has now been approved by Salesforce, and you can now see it up at the Salesforce App Exchange. It's ready and approved to be installed, and that's what we're working on right now. The application, as part of CX1, is also part of now a company that's completely separate from Clarity Engagement Solutions. So we have two standalone entities with their own management teams and their own P&Ls. And we did that on purpose because the way that we'll scale CX1 is different than the way that Clarity Engagement Solutions grows and scales. The real difference between this application and what's been available up to now is that if you look at the intersection between business-to-business enterprise account management and that type of functionality, something that is native on the Salesforce Lightning platform, and something that is specifically tailored, in this case, for the life sciences pharmaceutical industry, there's only one application available that meets all three criteria, and that's ClarityCX1. There are other applications that have actually a fair amount of market share in the pharmaceutical space, like Viva, but those applications are pointed at the old business model, the rep-to-physician interaction business model, which is now largely being replaced, as we said, with B2B strategic account management. And then the last part of this story as of today is that Salesforce is fast-tracking us. They've assigned resources to us to really accelerate our growth into the marketplace. And if you ask them why, they'll tell you it's because of the combination that we're both B2B enterprise and we have a price point that is enticing to them in terms of a royalty perspective, but also because we're specifically tailored for each vertical marketplace, starting with pharma. And that's a trend or a shift that is now taking place at Salesforce. They're finally starting to move down a more vertical industry path. As Chris mentioned, the total addressable marketplace for this is about 11 billion in sales for Salesforce automation and customer engagement software. Because of the number of users per account, potential users, we're looking at building up each account to the point where there could be between 300 and 600 or 625,000 in annual contract value. This also means too that as we pursue our goals of getting to that first million in annual recurring revenue within the first 12 months, and then 4.3 in the second 12 and 8.3 in the third, we don't need as many customers to hit our numbers as some other SaaS solutions might need. So if you're talking about a solution that's up at the App Exchange that might sell for 20 quid per person per month, you need a lot more customers in order to get to these numbers and hit these milestones. In our case, we can get to the first million in ARR with as little as 6 to 7 customers, with several account teams per customer within each one of those contracts. Our pipeline is building quite rapidly for a couple of reasons. One of them is that there's such a void in the marketplace for this type of app, but more importantly, we have the sister company's customer base who have been telling us for years that this is what they've been looking for. So the low-hanging fruit, if you will, for us is to go back to that customer base and knock on doors that are already open to us. And that's where we expect to get off to a fairly fast start in selling CX1. All of the customers that we're targeting, by the way, are all top 20 or top 25 large global pharma companies. We think that the average sales cycle is going to be 3 to 6 months. And the target buyers for this type of application would be the heads of sales, sales directors, Salesforce automation, and Salesforce effectiveness folks. There's a couple of routes to market here. We can go direct to any customer, really, but the two major routes here are to go to the customer base that we already have access to. And then the second one, of course, is to partner with Salesforce.com. So there's a lot of activity now kicking up with Salesforce to help us get off to a fast start. One of those points of activity is that we've been recently recontacted by the head of Health Cloud for Life Sciences. And we have a session set up with her next week where she's looking at CX1 as a potential fit to put into their portfolio of offerings that they then market and advertise to their customer base. So this would be in addition to us going to these customers directly. And our priority geographies are really the US, EU, and Asia Pac. And because of the work that was done over the years with CES, we already have a presence in Japan, we have a presence in China, and in fact, the CX1 application has already been translated into Japanese, and we're about to start marketing to our customers there. The deployment model, again, will be that this will be installed on the Salesforce Lightning platform. There will be a small professional services component that goes with it because each of these instances or installs could be tailored to a specific business unit or team. So you could have one account team within Novartis, let's say, selling it to government payers, and they may have a different set of fields and account plan templates than a different account team at Novartis who's calling into large, complex hospital systems. The arrangement through the ISV partner relationship with Salesforce is that they get a 15% royalty on all CX1 licenses sold. And there's other ways for them to make money that I'll come back to in a moment. And the pricing at the app exchange is $185 per person per month. But there will be some volume discounting because of the size of these customers. That's typically what they do with other types of apps of this nature. I have a background, as I mentioned, in software, CRM, help desk, Salesforce automation software. I was the VP of sales for ServiceSoft, and I built a customer base from nothing to 180 B2B customers in 5 years. I'm also joined by Mark Brennan, who's our CTO, who came over from SAP software. And Mark had a long history of building cloud and SaaS-based apps for SAP. And he's built a team of Salesforce experts, including Keith Clark, who was the CTO of a company called ClaimVantage. He's now our VP of product architecture. And Pat Diamond as well as part of the team. And Pat brings a lot of experience internationally and also in other verticals as we move into them, like financial services. We've already, as Chris mentioned, raised a number of different buckets of money as part of this raise. And this is what we're trying to close out now with participation from the Spark crowdfunding investors. And we have, as Chris mentioned, engaged not just one, but two well-known Irish VCs that we're in the final stages with right now. In addition, Enterprise Ireland is also committed to put in $350,000 as part of this round. And they will be helping us, of course, with some of the things that they're good at helping us with, like overseas operations and opening up offices. I mentioned that there is multiple ways for Salesforce to make money and be incented by partnering with us. One is just by us selling in CX1 licenses that they get a royalty for. But we also have planned integrations coming up with Salesforce Anywhere, as well as integrations with Tableau CRM for data and analytics, and the newest Salesforce acquisition, which is Slack. There's multiple ways in which we plan to leverage all three of those products through integrations from within CX1. That will also trigger additional license revenue for Salesforce if we demonstrate CX1 with one of those integrations and the customer has not yet bought licenses for that Salesforce add-on product, that'll trigger additional revenue for them. And the rest of this is all about engaging with these customers to get the first few installs under our belt, get a lot of feedback, validate the roadmap, and then continue down this path where our target really is $1 million in annual recurring revenue within the first 12 months, but we believe that we can get there even faster than that. Once we do that, and we do that well within pharma, then we'll go ahead and start releasing some of the other versions of CX1 for manufacturing high tech, manufacturing software, medical devices, and financial services. In terms of what the potential exit strategies could be for this, we get asked this question a lot. My own opinion is that Salesforce would be the most likely one that rises to the top of the list. They've done a lot of acquisitions recently, including Velocity, where Velocity had built a number of vertical market apps on top of the horizontal Salesforce Lightning platform, just as we're doing. There are two other players in the market, Viva and IQVIA, who do have market share in pharmaceutical specifically, but again, they're because they're targeting an audience at a lower level of the commercial sales force, and they're not addressing the key account management or strategic account management functionality. That's a missing gap for them, and acquiring us would basically complete the picture in their value that they bring to their pharmaceutical customers. So with that, I'd like to stop sharing and then pass it back to Chris to see if in fact we have some questions that I might be able to answer.
Absolutely, we do. Thanks very much indeed, Chris, and a great presentation as always. So we have a number that have dropped in. The first one, can you just elaborate a little bit more on the CES and CX1 relationship, please, if you could, Chris?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, they are separately incorporated businesses here in Ireland. CX1 was incorporated just last year. CES was incorporated many years ago. They have their own CEOs. I'm the CEO of CX1. I brought in Kevin Simpson, who's our CEO of CES, who came to us from Novartis, who was their worldwide head of key account management. And they have their own management team, their own P&Ls, right down to their own accounting system. So they are completely separate from that standpoint. But because from our customer standpoint, it doesn't really matter if it's CES or CX1. CX1 to them completes the picture of the value that CES started. So because CES can go into these companies and do and work at a very senior level to the strategy consulting, the training, the coaching, the e-learning, the last piece of the puzzle for these customers is CX1. So the fact that it's a separate company is really more for investor and financial reasons. But in terms of the value prop, this really completes the picture for our customers. And in a good way, it makes it easier to sell in because many of these accounts will have a business unit or team that might have spent 600,000 or 800,000 euros on a project with CES. And that same team may be spending in that same year 100 or 125,000 euros for a subscription for CX1. So it kind of sets the stage for us to go in and upsell with CX1. Other than that, as I said, the two companies are separate. There is a lead sharing arrangement between the two of them, but that's how we set it up.
Very good. Okay, thanks very much. Fergal, do you have the next one? Or
yeah, excellent. Yeah, just a question in here. In terms of the technical support and customer support, Chris, is that taken care of by yourselves or is it Salesforce, or how does that work going forward?
Sure. So actually, because of the size of our customers, Fergal, customers like Novartis, Otsuka, Bayer Healthcare, Takeda, they all have their own internal help desk, including for help desk for Salesforce.com. They always want to be level 1. And then we will be level 2 if anything escalates to us. And then, of course, Salesforce will be level 3. But because we're sitting on the Salesforce platform, and this is not something where we're maintaining our own hardware or even our underlying database code, all the database code is Salesforce, you wouldn't see a high volume of customer support type of tickets for this type of application. We think that more of those early types of queries might be more around usability and how do I do this type of thing.
Excellent.
Very good. Okay, you mentioned a monthly recurring revenue of 75 grand by the end of the year. How many customers do you think that equates to, if you could please, Chris?
Yeah, so we'll be able to say for sure as soon as I sign the first few subscription agreements, which are likely to be with Takeda. But based on the relative size of these teams and business units, we could need anywhere from 5 to 6 or maybe 7 subscription agreements signed to get to that 75K per MRR.
Very good.
Brilliant. In terms of the usage of the funds, what's the breakdown of the funds and how are they going to be used, Chris?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen just one more time because I do have a breakdown on that, and I may have skipped over it. So I'll just go back to that. So if I go back here, 30% of the funds we use for product development. The reason for that is that a lot of that product development is already complete, but we still have integrations and other things that we're working on. So we really are at the point now where a larger portion, in this case, 46%, will be spent on marketing and sales functions, especially marketing and co-marketing with Salesforce.com. And then we will be building a customer success team. So you asked your question about customer support. We will, of course, have a full SLA from a customer support perspective, but really the customer success function is actually more important in this case. So the generation of use cases and best practices that get shared and making sure we stay close to these customers to make sure that they're using the product the right way and getting the right value out of it. So that's the current breakdown that we're anticipating.
Brilliant.
Good stuff. Okay, next one. If you achieve your revenue figures over the next 3 years, what rate of return on investment do you think investors today will generate?
Maybe you have an answer for that, Chris, because that's kind of a tough one because we're still finalizing the round in terms of final percentages and whatnot. So it's kind of a tough one to say. What I can tell you is that from a profitability perspective, we're targeting 30 to 35% profit even after the first 12 months, on our way to 65 to 70% by year 3.
Very good. Okay.
Brilliant. And just a question around the sales pipeline. So we've seen some big logos there: Novartis, Bayer, Allergan. Anything else? Any other kind of significant customers that have kind of started, or you've started to engage with, Chris, over the past couple of weeks and months?
Yeah, so we've actually had conversations with Citibank and JP Morgan Chase Bank in New York because, again, CX1, the long-term view here is that it's applicable to multiple types of account teams and multiple verticals. So we're in the process of continuing to tailor our CX1 for financial services, and we will be ready soon to start demonstrating that to those banks. And we've recently been contacted by a couple of software companies as well, which is part of the, again, long-term vision that we're going to be moving into multiple verticals. Most of the early effort, though, will be with these pharma companies because it just makes sense. The cost of sales is lower because we already have these contacts.
Quick questions coming here about the relationship with Salesforce and about, wouldn't it be cannibalization for Salesforce to promote your CX1 rather than the competitor? I mean, how does that relationship work with Salesforce, please, Chris?
Sure. Yeah. In this case, if we're talking about Viva, who's the main Salesforce ISV that has been in the pharma space with Salesforce all these years, the answer is no, it wouldn't be cannibalizing because, again, Viva has not built out functionality for the audiences that we're now addressing. All of their functionality is used at the rep level for reps going on positions. And one of the reasons for that is that the Viva CRM product that has that functionality, that's only one piece of a much larger product family that Viva has. They have their iEngage product, their Viva Vault series and product line, and those products deal with all sorts of things that we have no intention of touching, like the crunching of clinical trial data and the development of assets that have to go through a very rigorous legal and regulatory and compliance review before they could be used with the medical community. So in fact, most of Viva's revenue comes from that product line. So they're not focused on the group that we're focused on, which are the key account managers, the strategic account managers, those types of folks that are calling more at the B2B enterprise level.
Good stuff.
Excellent. A question here around Enterprise Ireland. What stage are you with Enterprise Ireland, Chris, at the moment?
We're pretty much at the final stage. Like literally as of this week, they're uploading their financial, the application and all the documents to get approval from their investment committee. So we're fairly far down the path with them.
Fantastic. Excellent.
What about the competition from cloud companies like Amazon Web Service that has a lot of capability already available for life sciences?
Well, again, the functionality, if you take the underlying database layer, right, you have Salesforce competing with Microsoft, Azure, and those types of environments. But we're not focused on that underlying layer because we've committed to Salesforce. So if you look at the logic and presentation layer, unless somebody has spent all these years in the trenches with these account teams and has thought through, as we have, how to build out that layer of functionality that addresses how do I start planning and managing and strategizing inside of this account for multiple opportunities? How do I gain access to certain types of stakeholders? How do I leverage my team? What happens when a deal gets stuck in the pipeline? How do I gauge my win probability rate for each opportunity? Unless you've done all of that work, then you're not yet in a position to compete against ClarityCX1. And our hope is that we get off to such a fast start that by the time anybody else figures it out, we put a lot of distance between ourselves and somebody else.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah, I have one here. A good one actually. Just in terms of if I invest today, what updates or info will I get, and how often will I receive them? Will this likely be similar to the other investors that are on the cap table?
So I think this question could be maybe answered as a team effort here, Chris and Fergal, because from our side, we will be preparing board packs with detailed, updates on everything from cash flow to pipeline analysis, customer wins, how the organization is starting to build. So I'm not as familiar once those board packs are created in terms of how that information gets circulated, in this case to Spark crowdfunding investors. So maybe you guys can fill in that piece of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, we will request a quarterly update from ClarityCX1, as we do with all of our other clients as well, and get that disseminated out to the Spark investors. And of course, when there is a pack, as Chris was describing just there, we will get that disseminated out as well. And that's normally done. Well, so it's always done through the nominee company, which in most cases is Pierce Trust. So they will help us with that and act on Clarity's instruction to get that out to you. So you will be appraised both on a quarterly in a very interesting but a small way with just a 1-page or 2-page summary, and then more fully, if you like, at the end of the year with the pack as Chris described. So that's how that would work. We're coming up to the half-hour mark, so guys. So I got one more question here. I do. We're talking about the commission for Clarity engagement. What is the referral situation with Clarity engagement and CX1, please, Chris?
Yeah, so we haven't done a financial arrangement. The reason why we haven't is we expect that we may be passing leads going back and forth in both directions. And the reason for that is that we anticipate that we're going to get in situations where we may be selling CX1 to a company like Allergan, who has never been a CES client. And part of this is that if you install this package, but they need help on some of the other things that CES does well, that strategy consulting and that e-learning type of thing, that we're going to be passing leads in both directions. So it'll be bi-directional. So as of now, we could end up changing this. We don't have a financial arrangement or commission for that.
Very good. Okay, right, let's leave it there. Thanks very much indeed, Chris. That's very fulsome, and thank you very much indeed. And I'll introduce everybody to Donal Morris, CEO of RedZinc. Thank you very much for joining us today, Donal. So RedZinc has a cloud-based proprietary technology that enables healthcare professionals to conduct real-time video consultations on a secure next-generation network. It's telemedicine for paramedics and clinicians. One part of it is called the Blue Eye Clinic. It's a service that can be used for any medical consultation between clinician and patient using video. And this is already in commercial use by the HSE, which is a great endorsement, of course. The other element is Blue Eye Hands-Free, which is a wearable high-definition headset that's hooked up to a secure cloud-based video service. It's used for training, emergency first responder situations, and expert consultations. RedZinc has received more than 2 million euros in European grant funding that has helped RedZinc get to the place where it is today, and is now opened up for more investment to move the business onto the next level. Blue Eye Clinic has won Healthcare Award Best Response to COVID-19 last year. And the company is already generating annual revenues of more than 300,000 euros, which is a great endorsement, Donal. So well done for that. So if you'd like to start sharing your screen, Donal, I'll slide off into the background. And again, everybody, if you can use the Q&A button to ask your questions away, we will pose those to Donal in a few minutes. So Donal, over to you.
Thanks very much, Chris. And thanks, Chris, as well before. Great to be here and great to have the chance to present to our business and answer any questions. And we'd love you to be part of our journey. So let me share the screen. I'm sharing the screen now with our investment deck. Is it coming through okay for you, Chris?
Yep, perfect, clear and loud.
Clear and loud, excellent. Okay, let me roll on. So we provide mobile telemedicine solutions. So the idea is that a paramedic, a nurse, a doctor on the move, out in the field, or inside the hospital on the ward across the campus, wears a small camera that goes in their head, and the video gets sent back to a partner, somebody who can help them if they need help. And specifically for out in the field with paramedics or community nurses, there's loads of different applications. And we developed it organically as part of the 5G program with the European Commission, and we received over 2 million of funding from that, the 5G public-private partnership. So as Chris said, we've MMR of monthly recurring revenue of 13K, and it's a huge market. It's a 38 billion telemedicine market, and it's growing very fast. And the value proposition, well, it's simple. Blue Eye, it wins time. It's about helping a patient to get a better outcome. It wins time for that because they have the golden hour when they're treating somebody in an ambulance. And then also it improves operational efficiency and reduces cost within the healthcare system. And that's really important too. So let me just tell you a bit more about the problem that we're solving. The technical problem and the clinical problem. There's a technical problem and the ambulance services are using really outdated communication systems. They're using the equivalent of 2G technologies, and you know, everybody has 4G on their phone, and 5G is coming soon, and you know, the ambulance services are using 2G and equivalent of walkie-talkies. So really it's about upgrading that for more modern communications. And all the kids, my kids, are using video all the time, and you know, professional services want to be able to use that. And there's a lot of telemedicine deployed now in the health services globally because of the pandemic, but for people on the move, there's no real solution, and we're providing that solution for them. There's problems as well with sometimes ambulances are used inefficiently, sometimes there's inappropriate emissions, and we can help solve that. And then there's a big backlog in training junior doctors, just because they haven't been able to bring people into the hospital because of contagion risk. And then there's a clinical problem. You know, it's just really important to be able to treat quickly, delay in treatment and diagnosis, the suboptimal patient outcome. It's really important to get the patient treated quickly. And then there's the risk of contagion because of the corona. So that's all the challenges that are out there. And our solution, you know, goes a long way to helping solve that for medical people who are on the move. So that's the picture of it there. That's a paramedic in Andalusia in Spain, in Granada ambulance service. So he's wearing one of our cameras, and the video is going back to a doctor. They have doctors in the control room, but today the doctors, they can just hear. And, you know, just the whole potential of video beyond audio only has just a whole opportunity to improve things. So really it's about helping that paramedic out there get a support from his buddy, maybe get support from an expert clinician if it's a specialty case like a stroke doctor, or could be a special needs children doctor. There's also applications for junior doctor on call training, disaster recovery. We're working with people who are using it for urban search and rescue. And then that's outside the hospital. And inside the hospital, there's a lot of potential for teaching, for COVID isolation, for virtual ward rounds, for nursing homes. Every time we talk to somebody, we get a new application. So there's loads and loads of different applications where this can be applied. That's our software and our stack. It's not just a camera. The camera is a really important part of it, but it's also got a huge software stack behind it, and it allows all these people to connect together. All the healthcare workers on the move, whether it's paramedics, nurses, doctors, university hospitals teaching, they can send the real-time video back over our platform. It's a cloud-based platform, really secure and specifically designed for medical applications, whereas just compared to, say, Zoom now, that's just generic, but this is specifically for medical applications, and then it enables diagnosis and treatment, and it's specifically for people on the move. They can get help from their colleagues. And like we said, there's two parts of the product. There's the hands-free product, which is the main part we're raising the funding for to grow that. That's the unique product that we have. But we also have business with the Blue Eye Clinic, which is a Zoom for doctors, essentially, but with specific features for doctors. And that's deployed within Ireland's healthcare service. And we see that expanding as well. But the main growth is in with the hands-free, Blue Eye hands-free, which is unique globally. A target market, there's currently a telemedicine market about 38 billion. It's growing fast. We've done a bottom-up analysis, and we see that the served addressable market's 1.4 billion. And our target right now is to be the dominant player in body-worn real-time point-of-view video over the next several years. Our target users right now are 587 teaching hospitals, because they all have a backlog in medical education. That's our stepping stone to get in there. They all have a pain point that's a low risk, low barrier to entry, and that's where we're getting our lots of traction right now. And more about traction. So we have 13K monthly recurring revenue from the Irish Health Service, and we're really delighted to be having that revenue. So key customers are the HSE in Ireland, St. James's Hospital, University of Oulu Hospital, Tala Hospital. We've got some hospitals in Spain coming along as well. We're expecting to get purchase orders from them shortly. We won the Irish Healthcare Award, really delighted for that. Our team were really strong, and we were able to provide a solution for the Irish healthcare very rapidly when Corona started, and we got the best industry response for that from the industry sector for COVID-19. So we developed the product. We've been working quietly over the last several years with grant funding that we received as non-dilutive grant funding from the European Commission, and we've used that to bootstrap the product. This is the first time we're going out into the market to raise capital, really to drive the sales activity. We've got key partners. We're partnered with Philips. We're partnered with Airbus. We're partnered with Telenor, with customers and awards. So we've really good traction, and there's loads of pilots we have going on all over Europe. That's some of the testimonials. Just looking at the bottom left there, give you a really good one. That's from a doctor in Belgium who we've been working with, and we'd expect him to buy the product soon. He's running a pilot with it. Real time. Right people and the right place gives a great expectation. Really, he wants to bring all the different minds together in the right spot, and that's so important for emergency medicine. He's a professor in emergency medicine, and we've been working with him for a while developing the product. This is our pricing position. So we have two models. There's a model for the paramedics, and that's really direct sale and a channel. So we're doing direct sales, but our way to grow that is to drive it into channels. And we're talking to lots of channel partners in the telecoms and the 5G sector, and also in the old legacy walkie-talkie sector. People like Airbus and JVC Kenwood in Tokyo and Airbus in France. So that's one model, 235. It's per member per month, so it's a subscription model, and that includes the camera, and then they pay 400 euros as well to get a smartphone and a body docking system. And then there's the direct sales. We're doing direct sales to all the 587 hospitals across Europe, and that's a different price point, 140 per member per month. And the channel partnership has a margin there for the channel. So our targets really over the next 24 months are to get to 2.5 million revenue. We have 300 users at the moment, and we're looking to get 7x growth to 2,100. And we're driving all the necessary actions to deliver on that, sales activities and marketing activities. So right now we're active in the Irish market, the UK market, the Spanish market, Scandinavian market, and we want now to expand, to use the funding to expand this as well into Germany and to go deeper into the markets that we're currently in. That's a picture of everybody we're talking to right now, And so we've got production customers, we've got lots of pilots. Pilots are converting. Takes about 6 weeks to convert 6 or 8 weeks to convert an education pilot, and we're very confident of being able to do that with lots of customers. And we've loads of champions, so we've really good relationships. We've been doing pilots and development. We've used people to help us develop the product in medical sectors all over Europe, and we were quite confident of being able to convert them into customers as we go forward. Now, our advantage. So what is the advantage really we have? Well, we've got a strong advantage specifically because we've developed the wearable video for mobile telemedicine. We've got all the things that a customer needs. We've got the real-time video cloud that's secure. We've got no eye obstruction. A lot of the cameras that are out there, they obstruct your eye. The HoloLens and the Vuzix glasses, all of these ones obstruct your eye, and that's not really suitable for their augmented reality device is not really suitable for mobile telemedicine. People say they're a big contraption. I don't want to wear that contraption. Our camera is really tiny. And then there's point of view. There's police cameras out there. They're point of view. They're not point of view, but also they're not live. They're just doing recording for evidence trails. So there is police cameras coming in the first responder sector, but mostly it's not live, and that's what we're bringing to the market, is the whole ability to make everything live, and specifically for the ambulance sector. But as well as the ambulance, and there's also a market with telemaintenance. Now our moat. So we have a really strong defensive moat. Our product is lots of R&D behind it. So we've a really rich collaboration with hospitals and with 5G telcos. So we have a really strong solution. We've got a unique end-to-end ecosystem. We have lots of customer engagement. We're very agile. So one of the things we can do is respond to customers very quickly. For example, we're working with a pilot in Sweden with nurses, and they came back to us and they said, okay, we'd like you to change this and this on the camera. And now we've made a completely new design of camera for them. And the things that they were telling us about, we're going to put a patent on that now. So I can't really explain it to you now because the patent is not filed, but happy to do that to any investor who wants to find out more under non-disclosure agreement. So we have that patent coming, and we have another patent that we filed last year on the software. Our team, a really good team. So I founded the company. I've also founded a company before, Sherkin Communications. Terry has run a company in telephone business, so he's really lots of experience. Janice founded a company as well, and she's worked in marketing for many years. And then Ricardo is our he's the main guy who builds everything, and he follows my vision and Terry's vision. But Ricardo is our excellent software engineer. We have a really good team, and that's the leadership team, and we have a really good set of engineers and marketing people and commercial people in the group, and we're really delighted with our team. As the financials, so we have currently, we've actually got 500K in revenue, of which 165 of that is annual recurring revenue. Our target in 24 months is to bring it up to 2.5 million, and then to go forward in year 3 target as well. That's the investment opportunity. We're raising 500K now, 300K now, and that's how it will be distributed. Enterprise Ireland are coming in, giving us an agile grant because we're over the 6 years, so we get an agile grant from them. We don't have to lose any dilution with funding coming from Enterprise Ireland because we're over 6 years, and we've had money come in from the 5G Health project, from Airbus, as part of this funding activity. So we really expect to be able to get a great exit for everybody. If you look at the exit multiples for software as a service companies, it's about between 8 and 12. So really it shows a good exit multiple, getting to 24, 30 million within the next 24 to 36 months. And why invest in RedZinc? We have a really great team, really loads of experience, a huge amount of research and development behind us. We have revenue, we have recurring revenue, pilots active all over Europe, which can be converted. And then importantly for EIIS investors, they can avail of the 40% tax rebate. We have a great competitive advantage, cutting edge ergonomics. It's really smart the way things work on the head, and it's a huge market. And we're delighted to be involved here with Spark and telling you about our business. And we're welcoming anybody in the Spark group to join us in our investment journey, and to get an exit as we grow the business and appreciate the capital over the next several years. Thank you very much. Chris.
Great stuff. Thank you very much indeed, Donal. And Fergal has joined us as well. So Fergal, if you'd like to stop sharing your screen, please, Donal, we can see everybody then, and we can go back into it if we need to. Fergal, have you got the first question, please?
Yeah, so it's a question around the security. What encryption protocols are you currently using, and what future encryption are you looking to implement into the software, the solution?
Yeah, so we use we have our own servers. They're all over Europe. We have our own stack, and everything is used on TLS 1.2 and TLS 1.3. All of the passwords are hashed. We don't store patient data, so we're really lightweight and light touch in terms of patient data, and everything is encrypted. The signaling channel is encrypted using TLS 1.2 and 1.3, and then all the video channels, they're also encrypted. So it's a really secure platform.
Very good. Is this classified as a medical device, Donal? Does it need to be cleared by FDA, for example?
No, it's not a medical device. It's not touching the patient. It's not really, it's not measuring the patient. It's not touching them. So it's not a medical device. It's a communications device, same way a telephone is a communications device. Yeah.
Well, talking of the communication side of things, what's the minimum signal that is required? You mentioned kind of, obviously 4G growing and growing, and 4G here and 5G growing and growing. But does it come to a point where it's ineffective, or what's the cutoff on that technology?
So at the moment we've set it at the lowest is 300 kilobits per second, and that's a continuous bit rate. So then you kind of need about 1 or 2 megabits, and that's the uplink speed to be able to deliver that. Because it's video, it's kind of inelastic video traffic. So about 300 kilobits is the bottom range. And then it dynamically adapts the quality upwards and downwards. So say this now, Zoom, they're set at 1 megabits, but our one can go up like to 3, 4, and 5 megabits to get a really high definition picture, which is needed for medical applications. And one of the things we're going to add to it is a really low end feature. And we don't have that built yet, but we're going to be able to go below 300 kilobits, and we're going to do that as well over the next quarter, but that's not deployed yet.
Does that mean that it loses the video and it's just voice, or does that mean you still get still get video on that?
No, what we'll do is with that is you'll still get voice, but what we'll do is we'll put in JPEG pictures. So you get a picture like every 3 seconds, or depends on how fast or slow it is. But once we go below the 300, we're going to give them a still image. So it'll be a still image and then a still image, so that they'll at least see something that's happening in a kind of a poor area, a poor signal area. But one of the things that we have as well, and that's how we started the business, is we've actually got a mechanism to give a priority, a right of way, like a bus lane. So that's actually how we started off. We developed that technology first. One of the telecoms companies said you should use that technology to help save a life. So that method is embedded in the product, and that's a key feature that's in 5G networks. So we're talking to the telecoms companies about deploying that as part of the service. So that's one of the things that we have that's really strong advantage for us.
Very good.
Brilliant. Excellent. So just in terms of the hardware itself, what's the cost of the hardware, and do you envision the cost to decrease as you scale, economies of scale there, Donal, in terms of the cameras, the headsets, etc.?
Yeah, so we're using 3D printing and vacuum casting at the moment for the camera components, and they're coming in at around 350 per unit, and we'd be looking to get that down to 250, 225, even as low as 200 once we get volume. Once we make a mold with it, all the plastic parts will come down from vacuum casting to injection molding, and that'll reduce the price significantly.
Brilliant.
Very good. What's the average length of the contracts with your customers, please?
So the customer contracts, the first big contract we had with the HSE, that was a 12-month contract. Then they renewed it for 6 months, and then it's been renewed again next month. So there's probably going to be a 6-month or a 12-month. That's quite a big contract with the HSE. And then the contracts that we're giving out with for the wearable video, those contracts we're setting them at 12 months.
Very good. Sorry, just scrolling down here. A question on patents. Is it the patent you mentioned that was filed last year? Is that granted worldwide?
It's not granted yet. It's still under examinership in the UK patent office. Not examined yet.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Is all the technology IP vested economically and legally? Obviously, you're filing the patents, but I mean the other elements to it. Whereabouts are you on that journey, please, Donal?
Yeah, so we've developed everything ourselves. We own all the software, so all the IP is within the company. All the team have signed, assignment letters for the company. So everything is owned by the company. There's no issue with that.
Very good.
Excellent. Yeah, just a question here regarding the coverage again. Rumors are that the new iPhone has an emergency function for phone calls. Is there something that you can use similar to Starlink or satellite communications for the solution, Donal? Is that something that is the product future-proof for something like that?
Yeah, it could be. We were getting inquiries from Africa, where that type of satellite technology would be, most valuable, where there's a low density of 5G and 4G cell towers. So really that the smartphone market, there's billions of smartphones out there. Once a smartphone comes from Samsung or one of its competitors or Apple, that link to the LEOs, the new LEOs, low Earth orbit satellites, we'll be able to utilize that. So yeah, I see that as a whole possibility in rural areas, and that's an important thing for ambulance as well. They just, most of the people are in the urban areas, but there's outliers when they always want to cover rural and far rural areas, and that would be a good advantage. Yes.
Okay, last question, Donal. Exit strategy. What's the plan? What would you like to see happen?
So, the way we see it is that we're several years ahead of where the people are in this market. So the people who are selling the 2G technology to the ambulance services today, they're still selling 2G technologies, old technologies. And they're really just looking at voice and making voice better. I'll give you an example. We're talking to JVC Kenwood in Japan, and it's quite clear that we're several years ahead of where they're at. So we're making this market now, and we can see that in 36 months, perhaps before then, a company like that, there's JVC Kenwood, there's Airbus, there's Motorola, the Sapura, all of these companies will have to get into this market, and we're miles ahead of them. So we anticipate that in 24, 36, maybe 42 months, one of them will want to acquire us. And there's an exit multiple of 8 to 12 for software as a service companies. So if we can bring the revenue up to 2 or 3 million, so 3 million times 8, that's 24 million. We can see getting a really good exit for the company and for the investors, and that's what we're aiming to do.
Very good. Very good indeed. Okay, thank you very much indeed, Donal. Thanks very much for your time. Thank you again also for your time. Just a quick recap from my side. Both of these companies are EIIS, meaning of course that you get your 40% reduction in their pre-money valuation, and therefore you get a 40% rebate in on your tax bill next time. There are zero costs to investors, as we have previously said. And just a little more general, many of the companies that we have on our platform are Enterprise Island HPSU clients, and we will continue to showcase those as well. And of course, if you want any further information generally or specifically either on ClarityCX1 or indeed RedZinc, then please reach out to us. We'd be delighted to put you in touch with the guys or anybody else, and we'll answer those questions. So thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you all again. Thanks very much. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Take care.